Hey guys, it's RobJ here, and in today's video I'm bringing you my 5 month, or a tiny bit over 5 months in fact, update on my setup. And as you can see, there is a lot that's changed and it has also expanded. So I really hope you like my new setup and enjoy this video. See if we can't break, say, over 50 likes. So, to get started, I'm going to work my way from shelf to shelf, and then down and then back again, and down and back again. So starting off on the top shelf, we have my Miscellaneous Colony, and these guys have quite literally exploded in numbers. As you can see here, even after the most recent update on this colony, their numbers have still grown quite rapidly. Moving over to another Mesa colony. This one's in fact queenless, and I'm just letting the workers live out their life. They're a bit active here because they really do not like me taking the lid off for the recording. So what we're going to do now is move along this level onto the next shelf. So over here is really just my maintenance and storage shelf. And I also keep a queenless ant world up here with some Laceus niger inside. So let's move down one shelf, and this is where you get my fire ant shelf. Both colonies are fire ants and they're both the same species. So this is my at least 3 or 4 queen fire ant colony. European fire ant colony, should I say, and they're doing fantastically well. As you can see, this big whole pile of brood larvae is it's quite large. There's a lot of workers to this colony, and they seem to have settled in very nicely. They've established a single location for their waste dumping, which is making it really easy for me to keep it clean, but they do have a lot of waste. This is their outworld. There's not a lot of activity out here right now, and the reason for that is they've actually dragged a fully sized locust into the tube trying to get it to the nest. I don't know if you can see it there in the elbow joint. You can see that that's why there's not a lot of activity outside. They've found their food and they've dragged it back. Let's move over to my original fire ant colony. So I've had these like 6-7 months now, way before I even started YouTube, and as you can see, they're slowly growing as well. But this is a single queen colony, and I got them supposedly at something like 20 or 30 workers, but we did have quite a large dip in workers after I got them. But they have turned things around very nicely and have returned to doing quite well with a lot of larvae and pupa on the way. But yeah, they're a really nice ant to keep, and I would have to recommend them even though they are a stinging species. So let's stay on this level and move over to a different shelf. So these are my Fedoli ants, and the queen has decided to move out of her nest, and they've moved into their water test tube instead. And you see the cotton wool is pushed in. It wasn't like that. As they drank the water, it sucked the cotton wool down. As soon as there was space in the test tube, the queen moved in. It's strange. Moving on. So you've got I can't really pronounce this species, but they're commonly known as pavement ants. And as you can see, I got this queen workerless. It was just a queen in a test tube, and as you can see, even with the update videos telling you that she's doing well, she's got loads of workers and that, you can see that she's got even more now. Moving along. This is my original ant colony, my Miscellaneous Niger colony. If you want the full story from start to now, I will link it in the links above, and you'll be able to follow the story. But as you can see now, from the most recent update video, she had one new worker. Well, another worker has enclosed, bringing her up to 2 original and 2 new. And she also decides to live in her outworld. All my ants live in their outworlds over their acrylic nest, and they have the option. Moving along, this is my original Miscellaneous Flavius colony, and I got these at 4 workers, but sadly 2 of them died due to a little bit of a water leakage on the postage. But here you go, as you can see, the Queen's turned it around, replaced the loft workers and doubled their numbers. So that's all my young mini colonies in my mini outworlds that I make and sell on my website. So let's drop down a level. Okay, so this is one of my Asian Camponotus species, and they're doing really well. Now, they came to me at about, I think it was, what was it now, 6 or 7, and then they dropped to about 5 quite quickly after that, and then they had quite a growth spurt where they replaced them numbers. We've got to keep moving on to keep this video under 20 minutes. Here we go. We've got my Tetramorium species. This is E, formerly known as, I think it's Caspian. And they're doing fantastically well. Now, I know there's a lot of new workers there, because you can tell by the bright yellowish ones. So you can tell there's about 50 new workers. But that was basically the pile of eggs that were in the test tube have just hatched. Now, the Queen hasn't really replenished them, although there is a small pile starting to develop in one of the corners. But they seem to be happy. I don't find any dead ants. I think 1 or 2. But for a colony of little ants, you should be finding a lot more dead ones. But so they seem to be thriving. So I'm happy. So let's keep on this level and move along. Now we're moving on to my Formica colony, and this is my 4 queen Formica fusca colony, and they're doing very well. Now, when I got them, they came with a large pile of pupa, basically, and every single one of them pupas is now hatched. So the colony essentially has no pupa now, but everything, all the workers, they're all workers now. So let's take a look at the nest. I did the outworld first here because these really don't like their nest being disturbed. They're quite a jumpy and easily disturbed species. And messy. And you won't believe how many times I've actually cleaned this and it just gets dirty virtually immediately straight away. But as you can see here, all the pupa from the original move-in video is gone, but they are all workers now. And there is a bit of larvae spotted around in the Queen's chambers, but not a lot. But I'm assuming that these ants lay in waves, so now one wave is over. I'm hoping that I start to see quite a bit of action. But as you can see, these huddles around the queens make it quite hard to tell if you've got eggs. I mean, when I get to larvae, I might notice and be able to count. But eggs hidden underneath these mass of ants, I don't even really know what's going on inside. But I will continue the battle to try and keep this clean, but I've got to leave sufficient time between cleanings so I don't stop the queens laying eggs by cleaning their nest all the time. They're clearly just to make their nests quite dirty. And here you can see some workers enjoying banana and brown sugar protein jelly, and this colony loves their jelly and it takes it every day. A few minutes after this shot, that protein jelly was a mass of ants because the word spread. Now we're down on my sort of miscellaneous ant shelf. It just has some of my smaller developing colonies down here. So this is a Lasius niger queen. She's from July this year. She's laid her own eggs, and she was also given about 20 Lasius flavius eggs as well, which she accepted immediately. So she's going to have a mixed worker base. This is one of my Camponotus species. This is actually my second queen I ever bought. She came with like 2 workers. I think she went up to 3, then to 1, and then she's gone back up to 3 and not laid a single egg since. But I'm pretty sure she is getting very ready to hibernate, so I'm going to have to start thinking about doing that for her. Now we'll move on to my 150 worker plus Lasius flavius colony. These are my most recent ants, and a lot of my viewers and subscribers will recognise this colony off the bat. Now, there is a bit of condensation in here because yesterday they were given water, and you know it was very hot yesterday, so a lot of my nests have got condensation from the environmental change. But they are taking jelly every single day. They absolutely love it, which is strange because my other Lasius flavius colony doesn't touch it. So maybe when they get to a certain size, they're not so picky. But that's my Lasius flavius colony, and you've got to admit that the colour of a large Lasius flavius colony is gorgeous. That golden tint that they have, the yellow meadow ants. Let's stay on the very last shelf and move along. So this is my Camponotus herculinus colony, and they're doing very well, but things have slowed down. But these ants don't do anything in a rush. That's what I've found, and I've had them like 6 months. They've grown about 4 to 5 workers from the size that they arrived. Some of them workers aren't the originals, they died and then the queen replenished. So there's 4 more than the original number that turned up, but they're not necessarily the original workers. You know, it's sort of like a turnover, an increase. But as you can see, the queen hasn't actually stopped laying. There is a few eggs and larvae dotted around in there. And this colony, if you know my past videos, is quite a dirty colony normally, but you can see that their nest is very clean at the moment. The most that they've got in there is a fly. A few weeks ago it was like 20 odd different rotting corpses in there. So that's been my 5th month update of my new expanded ant setup and a quick overview on colony progress. I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, be sure to hit that like button because it means a hell of a lot to me and it helps the channel grow. So the more likes a video gets, the more places it's shown and recommended to other people that search ant related content. So if you can, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button.